From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Friday, October 24th, and here are today's headlines. If the federal government shutdown extends into November, food benefits could be in jeopardy for thousands of Vermonters. That's because the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, will run out of money for November. Governor Phil Scott says he plans to meet with key lawmakers to discuss using state funding to fill the gap for Vermonters. And U.S. Senator Peter Welch says he's working with other federal lawmakers to clear the way for that. But Welch says the proposal needs Trump administration approval in order to activate the electronic benefit cards recipients use.
So that when people go to make their payments with their SNAP benefit card, the transfer will be made in the payment made. And that's something that I would hope the federal government and the Trump administration would give.
More than 60,000 Vermonters rely on SNAP benefits. And it's more than supplemental nutrition food benefits that are at risk. It's nearing that time of year when Vermonters have to turn on the heat at home, and that could be tough for some. That's because the state has still not received money for the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program due to the federal government shutdown and mass layoffs by the Trump administration. The program helps roughly 30,000 low-income Vermont households access heating fuel and replace broken furnaces. Governor Phil Scott says his staff is working on a contingency plan in case funding does not come through. But he told reporters at a press conference this week he's optimistic.
This seems to be an area that Congress on both sides of the aisle agree upon. So we feel the money will continue to flow there.
Still, Scott says his team will present a backup plan to keep Vermonters warm at an emergency board meeting next week. The board is able to fund unexpected state expenses between legislative sessions in emergencies. This week, Scott also unveiled a short-term action plan intended to tackle public safety concerns in Burlington. The 14-point plan includes law enforcement resources, including state police, to bolster downtown foot patrols. It also involves working with the local needle exchange to develop strategies to keep syringe litter out of public places. Scott recently announced the centerpiece of his plan for the Queen City. He appointed a special prosecutor in Chittenden County to focus on people with 5 or more pending criminal cases. And 3 Northeast projects have received grants to help advance indigenous forest research. The Indigenous Forest Knowledge Projects program aims to invest in tribal forest traditions in the northern forest region. That covers Maine, New Hampshire, New York, and Vermont. It also provides opportunities for indigenous youth to be involved in forest research. Winning projects this year address topics like forest fire training, restoring understory plants, and basket weaving techniques. Casey Thornbrough is a citizen of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe in Massachusetts. He works as an advisor for the fund.
When you have more projects that are tribal-led or indigenous-led, it's going to really focus in on accomplishing a program or project that's going to be of immediate benefit to a tribal nation and community.
The Northeastern States Research Cooperative runs the program. This year's projects will receive a total of around $1.2 million. Coming up, the NBA opens its season with a gambling scandal. The World Series begins tonight in Toronto, and the UVM men's soccer team hopes to keep its undefeated record intact when they face another team yet to lose this season. That's all in the weekly sports report after this. Now it's time for our weekly check-in on news from the world of sports. And the 2025 World Series begins up north tonight with the American League champion Toronto Blue Jays hosting the LA Dodgers, who are vying for their second consecutive title after capturing the National League pennant in a 4-game sweep of the Milwaukee Brewers. That sweep, of course, was punctuated by the greatest individual performance ever seen in a playoff game or perhaps any game in baseball history, at least since Bugs Bunny single-handedly defeated the Gashouse Gorillas in that classic Looney Tunes episode from 1946. And I'm really only half kidding here. Bugs not only batted around against the Gorillas, he also pitched lights out against them, perplexing them with his slow ball and other physics-defying offerings. And LA's superstar Shohei Ohtani did much the same against the Brewers, throwing 6 scoreless innings while striking out 10 and belting 3 home runs at the plate. No one in the history of the game, not even Babe Ruth when he was pitching and hitting for the Boston Red Sox in the early years of the 20th century, has accomplished anything even remotely close. Now, the odds are stacked against Toronto in this one. My initial guess is Dodgers in 5. But if the Jays can get into the Dodgers' bullpen, perhaps the team's only real vulnerable spot, they may have a puncher's chance of pushing the series to 6 games. If they win the series, it would be a pretty epic upset, because unlike Bugs Bunny, the Dodgers have a pretty great supporting cast beyond the unicorn that is Ohtani. They've got sluggers like Teoscar Hernandez, Freddie Freeman, and Mookie Betts, who can also provide Gold Glove caliber defense. Plus, LA has starting pitchers in Blake Snell and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who were nearly untouchable in the NLCS. But the Blue Jays have a pretty potent lineup themselves, anchored by slugger Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and the team will be playing for their first championship since Joe Carter immortalized himself with a walk-off home run to win it all against the Phillies in 1993. The Jays will also embrace the underdog role, and they've got home field advantage to start games 1 and 2. The Rogers Center will be packed and pulsating tonight. The NBA is back and starting the season with a gambling scandal. ESPN reports Portland Trail Blazers head coach and former league player Chauncey Billups, as well as current Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, have been arrested as part of a probe related to illegal sports betting and rigged poker games allegedly backed by the mafia. Suffice it to say, there will be some explaining for the league's commissioner Adam Silver to do once more details emerge. Meanwhile, the Boston Celtics began Wednesday what could be a full season without their superstar Jason Tatum, who's rehabbing from a torn Achilles tendon. The Celtics went down to the wire in Game 1 against the Philadelphia 76ers, losing 117-116 when Peyton Pritchard's shot at the buzzer missed the mark. Phillies rookie V.J. Edgecombe debuted with 34 points in the first game of the season, the most in a player's first game since Wilt Chamberlain poured in 43 back in 1959. The Celtics are at Madison Square Garden tonight to take on the New York Knicks, who knocked them out of the playoffs last year. That is also the series in which Tatum suffered the torn Achilles. In the NHL, the Boston Bruins faced the Anaheim Ducks at TD Garden last night, and I'm actually glad that this sports report was taped before knowing the outcome, because based on the 5 straight losses the Bruins suffered since winning their first 3 of the season, I can only assume they were defeated last night as well. I'm basing the guess on yet another horrendous, pulling defeat from the jaws of at least potential victory earlier this week against the Florida Panthers. Florida is essentially now the Bruins' personal bad luck schlep rock, a Flintstones reference, since I'm cartooning things up today. Kids, ask your grandparents if that name's a question mark. In any event, the Bruins fell behind in that one 2-0. They tied the game in the third, lost the lead again, then pulled even once more with the goalie pulled in less than 2 minutes to play, only to literally shoot themselves in the foot with just 25 seconds left to secure at least 1 point with a regulation tie, because that's when Florida got the game winner by having a shot bounce off the post right onto the foot of Bruins defenseman Andrew Peeke and into the net. 4-3 Florida the final. Excruciating. But the silver lining was the sight of former captain Brad Marchand, who was traded to Florida at the trade deadline last year, making his first appearance back in Boston since the swap. And when a video tribute for his 16 stellar years spent in a Boston uniform was shown amid a standing ovation from the Bruins faithful, Marchand could not hold back the tears. It was a truly beautiful moment and a reminder that sports really can stir the soul. Finally, the UVM men's soccer team is still undefeated, and they've posted 3 straight shutouts after beating UNH 3-0 last Saturday. The Catamounts face their toughest test yet when they take their 9-0-5 record to Rhode Island tomorrow to run against the Bryant Bulldogs. They're also without a loss on the year at 13-0-2. And tomorrow at noon, it's women's soccer game day for the St. Michael's Purple Knights, who will take on Adelphi University at Duffy Field in Colchester. Amid one of the program's best seasons in history, the Purple Knights have a 12-2-1 record. And that's our weekly look at news from the world of sports. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Bob Kinzel, Abigail Giles, Liam Elder-Connors, and Adia Golston. Today's episode was edited by Stephanie Colombini, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb, and I'll talk to you Monday.